Alright, what is going on, guys? I hope you're doing well. Today I'll be making a little voiceover. This has been requested many times, and I'm just filming pretty randomly a full body workout. So I began with some Smith machine high incline press, and I'm showing you a few sets of the warm-ups to explain a few things. So first thing first, this is a hammer strength, a Smith machine, so there is a slight incline, and along with the slight incline of the bench, I'm really into the same kind of motion that I would be if I was to use a 60-degree incline bench for my sets. So you see me ramping up. I'm doing full range of motion with a slight pause at the bottom. I really like to do that when I'm warming up to really carry through the joint on a big range of motion, but I will most likely not do that with my real working sets, as my goal is hypertrophy. I'm a bodybuilder. And doing pause and full range of motion can be detrimental for your joint health, but also just as a sheer result. So here is my real first working set. I have 2 plates, and I'm going to go just below the chin level, basically throat level, and I will be able to squeeze in, I think, 7 reps, if memory serves correct. Something that I really like for the upper chest and the anterior delt tie-in, but the work also on the triceps is extra hard, just not as focused as what I usually do when I have a range of motions that stop around chin, but still a good exercise. Afterward, I go on to what I usually do on my full body workout. By the way, I do this full body workout after completing a full half body cycle, so upper, lower, and then I do my full body, so every 10 to 12 days. So this is a good Gym 80 machine, and I am basically doing a chest press, but I am biased onto the triceps. What I do is focusing solely onto the triceps extension and the work of the triceps. It's like doing a close grip barbell bench press, but with a neutral grip, and for added comfort, but also to better emphasize my muscle without crushing my joint, I use huge fast grips. Those were the big orange thing. And I superset it with the Gym 80 seated row machine with a chest support. This is an amazing machine because basically, okay, first thing first, this is a trap bias row. So I have elbows out and I focus onto my rear delt, my traps, and my rhomboid. I use the full stack and I'm pretty explosive for 3 reasons. First, when you're doing trap stuff, you have to be explosive. It doesn't work to do slow and control. Second thing is that the machine has an inverted resistance curve, meaning that instead of having the first top range of motion being easy and then the end hard, this is the reverse here. It's extremely hard at the bottom, but easier at the top. So you have to be extremely explosive. And third, it's just more comfortable for me. So this is the second set. I just slightly dropped the weight because I used a full stack and it was way too much after the high incline press. Normally I do this as a first exercise when I'm totally fresh. And here you can see me doing a better job. Basically the form is way better, and I'm also using my hip and my legs to be a bit more stable, which is something that I kind of forget to do on my first set, which is a very big dumb mistake, but you know, I'm not perfect. Then after all of that, I'll be going onto a lateral. So here you can see that I use a force grip, the weight is way lighter, I have a rounded, relaxed upper back, and all I'm doing is basically pulling my elbow back, no scapular movement or barely. All of that is because for lat, you do not need to move your scapulae, and also because I already completely trashed my traps before. I really try to have my lat isolated in a sense, because my focus currently is to build the thickness and the traps on my back, and the lat are a strong point, so I don't really do much except that, another machine row, and weighted pull-ups. I superset it with some Guillotine chest press machine. So this is the same machine, but I lowered the seat all the way down. I put the fat grip on the pronated grip, and I do elbows out wide grip, and I use a very slow tempo. The reason why is that for chest, you don't really need to be strong. You need to actually just stretch very hard the muscle and actually control the weight. And since chest for me at the start is a weak point, I am much more prone to use my shoulder and my triceps when I'm doing any kind of press. So that's why I'm doing it that way. This is another angle of view for the row, and yeah, someone go in front of the camera. This will happen a lot in the video because I was in rush hour when I did that. So yeah, but it is just another angle for you to see that basically I'm doing a long form raw, but it's still working hard on my lats because I'm able to bias them and make a lot of focus on them. This is the second set of the chest press, so you can see that I'm controlling the tempo better. This is a very dangerous and weak position for you to be in, hence why I prefer to have a slower tempo to actually use slightly lighter weight and take less risk of injury, but also to be 100% sure that I'm keeping the tension and the focus on the chest. That's why you see me grind. It was actually the same thing on the lateral set you just saw. But this grind is just the point where I'm supposed to stop, because that means that the muscle I'm focusing is done. After that, I go on to rings. I've implemented much more ring training lately, thanks to Bold Omniman and Alex Leonidas. It had been a while I didn't do that. Last time I did that was when I was forced into a home gym training. So yeah, I really like these ring push-ups. Really, really fantastic for chest, fantastic for shoulder heels. You can milk the weight, your own body weight, and even some added weight for huge result. And I really like it. And I superset it with some inverted row. What I do is that I force the pronation at the bottom and I force the supination at the top, so to really have some kind of full range of motion work for the rotator cuff and basically the whole scapular girdle, right? The whole clavicle, the whole thoracic belt muscle, and it is extremely good to sneak some volume in with a low strength approach and this kind of functioning in a sense aspect. Afterward, I go into the arm portion of the training. So I start with a focus onto the shortened position for the triceps. So I use dual cable rope extension. The goal is simple: not hurt your elbow and squeeze very hard your triceps. That's basically it. My form is not so much the best here because it's a heavier weight that I'm used to, but I have to force progress and growth, right? And I superset it with some rope, dual rope curl. So it's really good for the forearm, it's really good for the brachialis, the brachial, but it's also very good to kind of warm up your elbow to prevent any kind of biceps injury or tendon injury. It's a very low stress on the joint position. Now I'll go onto the dual rope extension again, but this time overhead. And I was not able to superset it with what I wanted because the gym was packed. You'll see that in a bit. But basically I did every set I could without hurting my elbow, because I have been crippled by elbow tendinitis for months, so I had to be extra careful. I had to drop all the heavy dumbbell extensions that I did on French press, and basically do the same with cable. So it's getting better and better. I'm actually even able to go heavier and heavier pain-free, and even grind out some reps. So I can still work in a very muscle-oriented fashion and not just in preservation of joint fashion. But really for triceps, cable, rope, even band work is a cheat code basically for your elbow heels. And that's what I wanted to bisect with. Hammer strength push curl machine. One of the best machine ever, I believe. I was introduced to it when I was in Vancouver, Canada, and I fell in love with this ever since. And that really helped me by breaking the 17 inches arm plateau. So you can see me having some momentum around the whole body, but actually I'm just keeping myself in a good, strong position and safe position as well for my biceps. I have very short biceps, like I have a 3-finger gap between my biceps and my elbow joint, and I don't want to have it torn, and I'm using like 25 kilogram per hand and even heavier after that. So it's just for better management of attention and also for safety purposes, which is most often the same actually. Here you can see me with little heavier weight, and I wanted you to see this set, because even if it's heavier and even if I'm still using this momentum, you can actually see me keep the armpit stuck to the bench, which is basically what you want to do when you're doing pressure curl, whatever variation, and also doing this kind of three-quarter of range of motion and still making the best effort I can to just keep the tension onto the biceps. By the way, this little injury wound that I have on my arm is just like a barbell that fell on my arm. It was either my head or my arm, so I choose the arm. It's ugly, but it wasn't painful or bothersome. It is what it is. Shit like that happened, and you have to be careful. But some random guy just did not put it back properly, and it fell on me, basically. And yeah, that's about it. Then I go onto the forearm portion of the workout, and what I like to do is fat grip wrist curl. So here I keep a lightweight. It's just 60 kilo, a bit more. But I keep a lightweight because I actually had some kind of flare-up around the ulna of some kind of inflammation. I don't know what it is. And I had to keep every supination work light. So here you go. And here I show you another angle to show you how I set up. So basically I pack everything, lats, abs, every muscle, I squeeze the biceps and I put my hip as far as I can go, and then I do my wrist curl. You have to remember that it is both a problem of focusing the forearm without hurting yourself, but also keeping the balance. That's why you can see me here, I grind and I put my hips even further back to compete with what the barbell is trying to do, which is to put me back forward. I superset it with that kind of exercise that I saw natural hypertrophy do, and also some arm wrestler, and I want some big ass arms, so I do it as well. I just do it, kind of a DL mode with a towel. It's basically a curl where you are forcing the pronation and twisting at the wrist, and it is extremely good to both prehab the wrist and also build your muscle. That's also why I'm doing it, because I don't want to have some wrist discomfort anymore. And I superset it with this. I'm pretty sure I'm using a very bad form, but it was working regardless. I'm just doing some radial deviation with my arms, and it is extremely good, especially for my left arm. It's really weird. My right arm is weaker, but my right wrist is stronger, and for my left arm is the reverse. So you can see me, I'm basically struggling. You can really see that the form is not the same. And then something extremely rare also happened. Some guy who see me filming during my set, and I have some headphone, and he came right in to ask me for weight, and I told him 2 times, I'm turning a video, and he just didn't want to hear it. I don't know, and it was just for a 25 pounder. So you have to keep your calm, right, when these kind of things happen. And this is what I was talking about. You can see my F wrist is just giving out. So I just gave up and did some isometry work. This was the last set, by the way. So yeah, I have some work to do. And then I go on to the leg portion. So my favorite exercise to just trash everything shotgun style on the whole lower body are either heavy block pulls or Bulgarian split squat. And Bulgarian split squat are of course an overall better option, and I will do them in the Smith machine for several reasons. The first one is that I am not some kind of Circus du Soleil athlete. I'm a bodybuilder, so even if I want to be athletic, which Bulgarian split squat is great for, I still want to preserve my joint and prefer stability to create intensity instead of actually playing any kind of balance game, okay? And Smith machine is extremely good for that, to keep focus on what you want and avoid any kind of problem with other things. The second thing I do them in the Smith machine, is that what I want to do is actually focus the quads and the glutes. The glutes, while sparing the low back. That's why I'm facing the mirror, and that's why by facing the mirror, I have the angle of a Smith machine that is basically more hip hinge oriented, even if I can basically do as much knee flexion extension as possible. So it's kind of a low stress on the knee method, but still quite good for the glute and even adductor work. And also, yet again, no stability issue. You just have to power through with one leg and then rest and do the other leg. Between each set, I will do my side neck raises. I just filmed this one. I did basically the whole neck with this training. I did a bend neck curl, bend neck extension, but I just filmed this. Basically, you put a plate on the side of your head and you do high rep. And I was using a 25 kilo pounder, which is like 55 pounds, I believe. I'm just going for as much rep as possible. I most often end up into the 20-30 rep range, and fantastic way to have a wider neck and a unique way to build your sternocleido-occipitomastoid muscle and also your scalenes, amongst other things. So some of you may not know it, but I am very prone and partial to neck training, and I do it every lower body and every full body. And I do that basically between every set of Bulgarian split squat. So going back to Bulgarian split squat, my goal is to do just 2 sets, 2 hard sets, and it needs to be enough. So I go up basically to 3 plate, and I just go to work. I just go ham. One of the cue I have for you if you want to try this method is actually to do something which is called in French talon fesse, which means that you bring your heel to your butt, or in that case the reverse. That way you immediately fall in a good position and in a good form, because you're actually going down pretty deep, but at the same time, still with a good focus onto what you want to do. Then afterward, I go into the press machine. So some of you may be surprised, but actually I like to kind of isolate my glutes. It is extremely important for squat, deadlift strength, but also for hip, leg and back health, spine health, and for longevity. And the hammer strength machine on the hip thrust is basically the same curve, same stuff than free weight barbell, but you don't have to suffer with the setup. So that's what I do. And for the weights limitation, I have a solution, basically the GymPin, which is one of my new sponsors. You have the link in my code HERSO10 for 10% off in the description, and it allows you to basically have an additional stick that you put in the where you put the plate, and that allow you to go way heavier. You can do that with a hammer strength machine, with CBEX1, and also with cable and stack cable machines. So you have no excuse basically to still progressing with that. For my second warm-up set, you can see me use a yoga mat. It is because I need a cushion to avoid bruising my pelvic bone, and even with that I have some bruise. So that's just for added comfort and just actually focusing more on what I'm trying to do, which is to work my muscle instead of hurting. And yeah, this is my real work set. So you can see I'm basically at 7 plate, a little more. It's like 210 kilogram, which is like 680 pounds, I believe. And yeah, very good. My hardest and heaviest hip thrust prior to that on a barbell was 8 plate for 2 and 8 reps for 7 plate. And here I'm able to basically do way more at the end of full body workout, and I'm also able to have a slight pause at bottom and at the top to really put as much tension as I want onto the glutes, and also a bit on the hamstring and the adductor. So very good machine, kind of low stress, even if you can go very heavy, but quite painful. So yeah, for a glute-centric workout, actually going with split squat and then hip thrust is a very good idea, because you basically switch resistance curve motion just like you would with a squat and a leg extension for quads. Now, you may asking, where was the shoulder? Well, actually, 48 hours later, I was doing some heavy back workout. So you can see me, my form is trash, I'm wobbly, I'm very rusty, I'm fat, slow and old. But that's why I did not do any kind of real shoulder motion. But after that, after about, I'd say half an hour, a bit more of heavy back work, I did 3 sets of 10 on the Klokov Press with 1 plate. I had to stop them for a little while because of some shoulder tendonitis, and this was also throwing up my elbow problem. But now I can do them again, so I'm just doing, milking the weight, making 1 plate as hard and as productive as possible, and I just superset that with some dumbbell lateral raises. You can see that I have some kind of calf pump, shoulder traps, neck, forearm pump. This is all boxing, heavy back boxing. And as for my form, I'm not going too high to avoid shrugging, and I'm just keeping as much of a constant tension as I can on the shoulder. And that was it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon for other educational content. Subscribe, like, and bye-bye. Take care.